couple of minutes late. It's 3 minutes after 10. We'll open up our regular session for April 4th, 2018. If you'll please silence or shut off your cell phone, we'd appreciate it. And join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome and thanks everybody for coming today. Melanie, additions or deletions to our agenda?
Yes. SCOED funding, we made a decision yesterday, so we want you to discuss that today.
So I do have the cooperative agreement with Anna Reservoir. I think we're going to table that. There's a couple of questions on there that Dave's going to follow up with. Yes,
And I needed to be in Klamath Falls yesterday, so I missed yesterday's work session. What was the decision on SCOED funding?
It was to put it in the budget for consideration,
How much?
what they're asking.
exactly the same as LCRI through the budget.
Okay, that's all I need.
Okay, with that, we'll open up with public comment. Is there anybody here today that has any public comment?
I do.
Okay.
I'm Heidi Smith from Thunder Ranch. I'm also the Thames medic for the Lake County Sheriff's Department, and I wanted to know if I could address a couple concerns. I didn't know where you want me here, or can everybody hear me?
Yeah, stand there and talk.
Okay. So one thing I want to bring up, sir, is the need for, we had some lively discussions about firearms and things like that, and then the big picture. But where my concern here in this area for our schools is there's a whole lot of pressure on, we need to do something about the guns. I got it. And whether it's limiting magazine capacity or outlawing certain things. But if you look at the children, if we're talking about active shooters, which is the big emotional issue right now, and if you look at, we can even go back to where we're losing our soldiers, where we're losing people in active shooters in office settings, work settings, is 60% of the people that are getting shot are bleeding out and dying from savable wounds. And so my biggest push here is that we could do something to get more tourniquets into our schools. And that is the key. By the time I get off the mountain and get into the school to save your kids, which my first priority is to go after the bad guy, I will have to bypass kids that are bleeding out, all right? It can take up to the average, which I did my statistics and I studied active shootings. The average time for first responder and police response, actually to get a crew in there, is 90 minutes. It takes you exactly 2 minutes to bleed out from an extremity wound in the arteries and the femorals. 30 seconds if you're putting a tourniquet on yourself, onto someone before you start losing yourself mentally. So even though we have a pretty good reaction time here from the cops that we might have on duty here, if we have a bomb threat, if we have anything like that, to get SWAT here, to get all these people into place, to be able to get into this school and to save kids who are bleeding out, and that's why we're losing them. That's the real issue, is how do we save our kids right now to be able to even get an issue about how do we, if we arm teachers, even if we decide, imagine the paperwork and the training it's going to take to get to that point, just to get guns in the school or on a trained teacher. But what we can do right now is put something in our school district budget, something that we can help save these kids' lives while they're sitting there waiting for us to come in there and get them out. And as you guys know, our first responders, our EMS, cannot go in that building until the scene is secured. Me, I'm lucky as a medic, I get to go with a rifle and a pistol. But my first priority is to get the bad guy. So in Christmas Valley, it's going to take us 50 minutes to get there. 50 minutes, kids are dying. So as of 2 weeks ago, there was not one tourniquet in this school district, not one. Now, and I did this for selfish reasons because I want kids to live. Clint and I bought 100 Cat 3 tourniquets last week. And I took them to the hospital with Bobby, and we certified 7 of us. And today at 2:15, we're going to start teaching these teachers how to put on those damn tourniquets. because they need to teach these kids how to save themselves. I know it that the parents want the teachers to save the kids. The teachers want the kids want us to save the kids. Those kids need to grow the hell up and learn how to put a tourniquet on themselves because it's a life skill. You're hunting, you're on a farm. Those are things that we need to teach, and we need to put money in the budget to give and put tourniquets in the appropriate size tourniquets for what I call our suitcase handle kids to be able to save their lives. It's all about bleeding, since this is the big emotional issue right now with schools and shootings. So my hope is that somehow through legislation, through somehow we get the money, and it's not that I begrudge spending the money to get these tourniquets or spending the time. For me, that solves a problem. For me, that means I can go into a school room, and if those kids have put those tourniquets on, I have a better chance of dragging out kids that are alive and not dead. So I hope that this can continue further discussion, because we need to get smaller tourniquets out to the kids on the west side. We need to get stuff up to Christmas Valley. Each classroom needs to have a red gym bag or something that has those tourniquets in it that they can lock if they can't escape, and if they're hiding, they can save each other. And a lot of people have told me, well, these kids, they're going to be really scared and they won't be able to do this. And I saw kids in Florida that took out their cell phones,
Swiped it.
typed it, sent it, and then took videos of dead people. If they can do that with their damn phones, excuse me, they can do that with a tourniquet. So today, like I said, at 2:15, Bobby and I are going to start teaching these teachers, and I want to keep this momentum going, but 100 tourniquets does not cut it for Christmas Valley, for West Side, or for here. And all the schools, we need different sizes, and we need more. And so, for me, to you, that is my push as an officer here, and I understand the whole gun thing, but that's not the problem. We're losing kids and teachers because they're bleeding out. So, thank you for your time.
Next item. You mentioned Bobby, what's Bobby is now?
Bye, Senator.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being proactive
Yeah.
and finding this,
It's
part
logical.
part of the solution.
It's a solution.
Part of the solution. I appreciate that. And just to speak a little bit about it, I think we have to go, that helps to save lives, but why are people shooting each other is really what the problem is. It's not the firearm, it is we have some issues with, maybe we need more mental health, maybe we need more,
Better parenting?
trying to be politically correct. Yes,
Yeah, parenting, it's.
we need
it's a
to
social-
evaluate what is causing these situations to happen. Right, yes.
Yes, I'm a former teacher, and I taught the kind of kids that do the shooting. So I know them well. What you were just saying about teaching the kids, it serves a twofold thing. When I worked with the worst of the worst, and I gave them a positive focus, like teaching them how to save lives, then that becomes a real mental health intervention. So I would say that a real program for all the kids, it gives them a focus outside of the protesting, which does nothing, but gives them a positive focus. So, hey, go for it.
And
Very good
statistics
point.
prove that kids that help mentally move further than those that didn't.
Thank you, Judy. Any other public comment? Mr. Smith?
She covered all the bases, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, so to speak, but I would say that you're our representative here. We're very grateful that you would come and listen to our side of the story, so to speak. We have the issues of teaching and parenting and public safety, and those are all really awesome. The only thing that I would ask you personally, myself to you, was I'm pretty sure that you put your foot someplace and swore to uphold and protect the Constitution of the United States. And I would ask that you would consider that and the Bill of Rights as you go forward, because you know this legislation is not right. We are being punished for something. I am 69 years old. I didn't, without going into it, but I've sort of paid my dues in the military and law enforcement and those things, and we contributed positive things to society. We contributed positive gun owners, safe gun owners, because a lot of times when they talk about the school, well, the school's not shooting. It's not. That's where people miss. The school's about making people smart. any idiot can pull the trigger. We see that on a daily basis. What we're talking about are making people smart gun owners and confiscating, not being ugly, but the guy last night goes, well, you know, if they get nervous, they won't know how to load. You're wrong. And you can't, I will actually, without sounding tacky but being forthright, since we're talking about this, I actually can hurt people's feelings really bad with a single shot gun. Okay? So the idea that I can't have continuity of fire, or the magazine has nothing in it. It has to do with parenting, it has to do with mental health, it has to do with our community. And like she said, I would rather get a kid and come out and go, okay, you know, this is how you, because he could use it in a hunting accident. He could use it in a chainsaw accident. And so that's why we don't do it. We don't even have kids at the school. I'm too old to have kids. I don't want any, okay? So, but the deal with it is I would just ask you as our representative, if you would please at least consider our concerns about this. I think it's 43. And so, you know, so I'm actually preaching to the choir, but I think that, you know, it makes us feel better to know that you're kind of at least considering our side of the story. Please. Thank you.
Please, please, yes.
Any other public comment? Yes, Vince.
He said,
Yes. Awesome. Is this thing on? It is on. I'm here to speak about growth in the county. I'm very concerned about it. We've been in some instances lately that I feel are very negative, have a negative effect on positive growth in Lake County. And I've been a building contractor for years, been in the self-employed for years, and you have a system for growth, for residential growth, set up through your building department, correct?
There, and Spence, I think I know where you're going. Nothing's been appealed to us yet.
Right.
So we may be limited on what we can talk to.
Okay, that's
But we
fine.
do,
That's
we
fine.
do,
But I'm
we are
just clarifying, you have a
we are very
process.
proactive in growth, and through land use and through our building department,
Right.
there's processes that people follow to get there, yes.
Right, okay. So, and I've understood that, I've followed that process for years, and I think you have a very, very good building department, and if you'll let them do their job, I think we'll have very positive growth. The question I have is through your planning commission, and that why are they circumventing the building department? Because in this particular instance I'm talking about, when it was denied through the planning commission, his variance, then he fell back into the building department. Why wasn't he there to begin with? That's the normal process for a residence. And your planning commission's clarification that they call it, or interpretation of the rule, I think are extremely liberal. I don't think that was the intent, that the subdivision that I'm referring to out of Drews was there for. RVs are not residences, they're camp trailers. And if you want to park them all over the county and let them live there and have an address and a permanent residence, I think, what are you gonna do for a tax base? How are you gonna fund the county on that? I talked to the tax assessor, there's very little taxes involved in that. But if they have to build a residence, there's no square footage demand on that, then why, that's good growth for Lake County. And so I have to question, why you're not letting your building department do their job and why you're circumventing them through the planning commission.
Well, I'd say that we're not. I would say that there's a process, and within the process, there's different things allowed. And the one that you're talking about is going through a process right now.
Right,
And
he's
it-
in the right process
And
now.
and it's going through a planning commission, and it's, has a chance to be appealed to the Board of Commissioners right now. Whether it will be or not, I don't know. What has happened with the previous owner and what was said by a county employee, a building official. We're trying to pick up those pieces and make it
That's right.
correct as we
I
can
understand
today.
that.
There is no way that a board of commissioners is going to be out on every single site and know about every single development that's going to be out there, Spence.
Well, I know,
So-
but then, I had to file a formal complaint in another matter to get the county just to enforce the laws that you have. And I know that an individual here in this group filed a formal complaint to get the county to enforce the rules you already have.
Are you talking on the nuisance side?
Yeah. And why, as an individual, I mean, I wouldn't even know about it except I'm an adjoining landowner, And so, why do we have to make formal complaints, written complaints, to get the county to act and enforce the laws that they already have?
That's the process that we're using right now, Spence. On the nuisance side, they have been almost dormant for a great number of years. There's a great need for nuisance abatement, for us to clean up some things. We've implemented a program. We do have it where it's complaint driven. We do not have the money nor the personnel to address the 8,400 miles and all the nuisances across the county. But on the other side of it is we're proactive, and we do have a nuisance officer now. We are putting some.
Who's your nuisance officer now?
Jennifer Stevens.
Good. Good. She will be very good. Let her do her job.
Well, it's been my emphasis for years that if we have an ordinance, we either implement it or you get rid of it. In this case, implement means to have some teeth put into it.
That's right.
A gentle touch up front is always courteous. But for some people, you have to go a little harder, and we haven't got to that point yet.
Well, this one
But
that's
we're working on it.
been there 4 years. I mean, that's, in my mind, that's ridiculous. I mean, that you let that go for 4 years. And so basically, we need to put an ad in the paper. If you have a problem, the county's not enforcing the laws, you have to make out a formal written complaint. So that then that magnifying glass comes onto that. So that, or is the county going to try to enforce their laws? I realize you have a backlog of problems, Brad. I understand that. I've been here for a whole life. But you still have to start someplace.
And I really, Spencer, I really believe we're making a lot of progress.
Okay.
We are doing it with a soft hand. Because we don't have enough money to go out there and clean up all these places. Now, there is a lot of people, they get to talking. They don't want government on their property, they want private property rights. They don't think that government should be coming onto their property. So we're working at this with a soft hand. We're doing it the best we can. There is some out there, there is some out there that's gonna have to be cleaned up. There's a cost to that.
Well, and exactly right, because they're creating health issues for the adjoining landowner by dumping their raw sewage on the ground. And so, is that going to call?
We have addressed that. We've
You
had.
haven't addressed it all the way because you haven't gone on the one person's property because he locks his gate. Now, however you have to circumvent that, I don't know. But is it going to be, when that sewage gets into the lake and you have an E. coli outbreak or a salmonella outbreak, who's going to be liable?
Have you had a chance to talk with Jennifer in our on-site person?
I talked to her day before yesterday. And she said they went out there with a warrant and they couldn't go on Mr. Key's property because he had a locked gate.
Okay.
They addressed the other issue, Mr. Davidson, but they didn't even see all that. And I told them where to go to see the rest of it. Because we have a property adjoining that. The toilet paper and
They don't even have a toilet there.
human waste. So,
We're very much aware there's some
right.
non-compliant.
And I realize there's a process, Brad, but it's gotta be started and it's gotta be followed up.
We've been there 2 years now.
I really believe we are following up on it.
Okay.
With the one particular one, we had our on-site person there and Jennifer out there the next
Right.
day. If there's no trespassing signs, we're not gonna put our employees in jeopardy.
I realize that.
You could levy
But you still
fines
have to somehow
to
get on
collect
the
revenue from that
property.
and penalties.
Because he admitted in a public forum that he's been.
Liens against
dumping
property.
On the ground for 4 years.
4 years, unreal.
And we've been talking to you guys for
And
4
that's-
years about it, and you've been ignoring it, so don't act like you've been doing stuff, you haven't.
There should be fines or levied against the property, and if they can't pay it, it should become a lien against the property for when they sell it. I mean, they're just riding scot-free. This guy, he did it for 4 years. This was a joke, this meeting we had the other day, last week. He's gonna continue doing that unless he's enforced to do something by a fine or eviction. And it'll just keep going on and on and on. And that's just one person's property. There's a whole bunch on the south side of town. There's a bunch of Christmas Valley, but we're just letting them, for 4 years, it's going on and on and on.
I've said my piece, okay? And I know you're aware of the problem, but I want to see that the building department does their job, and they will do a great job, and let them. And I would like to see that the interpretation of the laws by the planning commission is checked on a little bit, because they're not lawyers. And the interpretation is very loosely thrown around there as an RV campground, permanent residence, and so that's my concern.
Another thing, the planning commission actually told us it's a social issue. Why are they getting involved in social issues?
I haven't heard that, I'll follow up on that.
So, Brad, you signed off on that subdivision up there at Drew's, and what was your intent, what was your idea of the intention of the subdivision at Drew's? I just kind of wanted to get your input on that.
The intent on the subdivision, when subdivisions are, development is done, they come before the Board of Commissioners.
Right, I know that, but what did you think was gonna happen on that particular subdivision?
On that subdivision up there, development.
Okay,
It-
because I pulled the application and it mostly says for residents. So we have a conditional use permit that came before, and the people that were within 250 feet of the property got letters from the county. I did real estate for 16 years, I've been all over this county, and that department has had a lot of shakeup. The planning department, I've always got the clear same message. Jennifer and the gal before her have always done a very good job. But I'm very concerned that our ordinances were last done in 1980. The subdivision was done in 2000. So the people that were doing the subdivision, on the commission, all that, they're gone now. You know, they're not in those positions. The county needs to get very intentional about what we're gonna have happen in this county. We're having a lot of people come here because we have a lot of recreation, and guess what? They're gonna buy a cheap property, they're gonna camp their campground there, you know, and that's gonna be what they do. They come on the weekends or whatever, they're not gonna give to the community. So I think that in our planning, we have to be very, very careful. And some of this stuff is not written very well, because it was written in 1980. So I think that the county has a serious problem that takes a lot of time, that we need to address this. If we want growth to come here, people don't want to go up to Drew's and build a nice home, and a lot of these people in this room have done that, invested, and now you're gonna have maybe a campground up there. They declined it the other night, only based on because there wasn't a septic there. But the next time somebody does a conditional use permit for a campground up there, single-use campground, are we gonna let that happen? You know, so I keep hearing we want people to come here and that, well, where do you want them to come? Do you wanna come and let them be an RVer? Is that our goal? So what is our goal in the county? Or do we want people to come, when they come here from somewhere else, they want a nice house with a double-car garage. That's what people want when they move here. They don't wanna live in an RV 12 months out of the year. Most people want a nice home. We don't have any good subdivisions. That is a nice subdivision up there. And you guys, and I've talked to you, and Spence and I've been in there many times about this problem. And for you to act like you haven't heard about it, you have. And I do think it's good that you have started this nuisance program. It needs a lot of fine tuning. And Jennifer will do very well at it, but there is so much disjointedness in our county, from you guys to the assessor's office, to that office, to the sheriff's office. We've been in all of those offices. And you guys need to facilitate some kind of unity of people coming together with the same purpose and go forward and not go backward. the properties have gone backwards since I've been doing real estate. I haven't done it since 2013. Everything is looking like junk in the city and the county, and I don't like it. And I want to see us go forward. I want to see make good decisions. I want to see the assessor's office being on the same page with you guys, on the same page with the planning. Are you all talking? You know, you guys are the facilitators and the head of the county. We're depending on you to bring unity in this place right here. And so I guess I'm saying, I've been in your offices and numerous times, and I want something to happen. We take a lot of time because we had to go to that planning commission. It's taken a lot of our time. We don't get paid for that. And so I have a voice and I'm going to be using it. And I want something to happen. I want to see change here. You have a good community. We love where we live. I don't want to see toilet paper all over the lot next door to my lot, because you guys will let 2 people up there camp out without a septic or well for 2 years, and the guy on my other lot has been 4 years. And also I want to say something about the schools. Our kids went to school in Adel. We didn't go to Fremont or Adie Hay schools. Our schools have exceptional teachers. This year I signed up as a substitute. So I've been at the school, and I have never been in those buildings very many times. I was absolutely appalled at how bad those buildings are at the school. And the education is good. The buildings need deep attention, and they need money. And I'm very, very concerned about our school buildings.
I got one.
Judy wants to.
Just to add to what Sharon has said, I happen to live pretty adjacent to Robert. And when you mentioned that you put your employees at risk, with this individual, by me speaking out right now as close as I live, believe me, with the weaponry this guy has, I'm putting myself at risk.
We think so.
Spence, you had another comment?
Yeah, I've been in 4 different departments in the county courthouse in the last month or so. And one of the common comments through all the departments was, there's no teeth. They can't do anything because there's no teeth. And now, I think that comes directly on the commissioners. And, you know, you're talking about process and enforcing it and stuff. You don't have the money and stuff. But there's ways to do that, you know. You can attach, like she was saying, clean it up, attach it to the property tax and that kind of stuff. Or run them through collection, or there's several different avenues. But, you know, what Sharon said about the continuity in the county, you know, one department says, oh, we won't have nothing to do with that, that's not, you know, that's not our deal, we won't have nothing to do with that, this, no, we won't do that, you know. Well, aren't we in this together?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, we love this county, we've lived here most of our life, and I have one other comment is, you know, when people come here, you see these people that come in with high-paying jobs, and you ask yourself, okay, how are they invested in the county? Well, just go ask them if they're renting or they bought a house. If they're renting, you know they're not invested in the county, and they're gonna be here for a short time, and poof, they're gone. That's just an insight. Thank you.
Right.
Hello, I'm Ryan Frederick.
Morning, Ryan.
Good morning. So the whole deal with the single space private RV park. You know, I didn't know anything about this code until I started looking into this, and I printed off the code book. And this is all based on Article 4 and 24. So I looked all that up, and it's basically a loophole in Article 24. So a private single space campground. I mean, why would anybody want such a thing, you know? And that's basically to live in your RV park, live in an RV on your property without building a residence. So I don't know why these are going through like that and they're getting more common. Article 26 has everything laid out. I don't know why we have to go through Article 24 and make certain exceptions, you know, and variances, when Article 26 already has everything laid out. So I guess I'm not sure what the commissioners' thoughts are on the county as far as that. And then also, so when someone does a conditional use permit, the adjoining owners get notified, and it's 250 feet. So that's not very big. The only reason I got notified is because I own a lot between me and that property. Even though, you know, in a rural area, 250 feet's your neighbor, you know, it's pretty much right there, you know, so. I think that that should be changed in the zoning ordinances to maybe a couple thousand feet, so everybody's aware of what's going on in the community. And I think that's all I have.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to mention the one individual that we were discussing and he might appeal. This guy has threatened to kill about 3 of us in this room.
I
And you thought-
highly recommend you get a hold of the sheriff's department.
We did.
But we did, but that didn't go anywhere. So my point is, you have people that went up there and they can't go on his property because it's locked. Their lives are in danger too. Governor Kate Brown just passed a law that if you have a restraining order against you, you cannot own firearms. Didn't she? I mean, maybe not.
Can't possess them.
You can't possess them.
You can't possess firearms. He's had restraining orders against him, and he might even have a current one, and the firearm should be removed from that property. Judy's in danger, everybody in that neighborhood is actually in danger because of that.
I really encourage you to get that. to
When
our
I went
sheriff.
and talked to the prosecuting attorney about a year or so ago,
And Chuck Moore.
and Chuck Porter, they could not do anything until he actually killed somebody or harmed somebody.
Except record him like he's the
And
bad.
I got recorded like I'm the bad guy when I was speaking.
I'm not going to engage far on why.
So that's
we're
what-
not-
that's what
we're not
Spence is
legal on
talking
that,
about
but
here.
I really
The
encourage you to.
County
have this
officials do not
conversation with the
communicate
sheriff.
and work together.
If
I mean,
this
for-
person really is not allowed to have firearms, then I would think that the law enforcement.
Who do I talk to then?
The Sheriff Taylor. Absolutely.
I'll follow up on that for you.
Thank you.
So I do want to just, our planning director is sitting in the audience here. For your guys' information, I talk process, and we do follow process. So whenever somebody has a conditional use or whatever, they go through the process. They go to the planning commission. They're a decision-making body of government. Whatever they decide can be appealed to the Board of Commissioners. We act quasi-judicial then, and we take the staff reports and we take testimony. We can either uphold or overturn that decision. After that, it can be appealed to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals. So that's the process I talk about. We as commissioners do not go down and sit in the planning commission and make decisions at that level. We are not planners, we are not planning directors. But that's the process I talk about. That's so that it's set up so that all residents, pro or con, gets their opportunity to present their case. So I try to follow that process and do it correctly. And so if this one is appealed, all this testimony today will become part of the record. Because of whenever we become quasi-judicial, any discussion we have, we disclose. That is what it is. This is being recorded today by it, so this is all public. I just want you to understand that's what the process is. As far as updating our 1980, we've been in that process. We ran into a glitch just at the time we was going to adopt some of it, of the state wanting to change the size, and I can't speak absolutely to it, Sharon, the size that you're allowed to build on. That we are pro-growth here. There is a,
What kind of growth?
we're very pro-farming, ranching, so we want to protect that land. But also some of those places want to take 10 acres off and go through conditional use permit and build a home on that. So we're trying to balance that as we update everything
The whole
to allow the
RV.
growth, but still be respectful of our farmland too.
But
So,
do you understand what I'm saying? People want to come here for recreational. Our land is cheap compared to a lot of places.
absolutely, and
If
North
you're
Lake
gonna allow
is even cheaper.
single camping grounds all over the, I mean, we already have a lot of it already, you guys know this. You have a good subdivision up there. You know, you were a part of that, Brad.
Yeah.
2,000. So are you gonna allow them, you know, people to put single camp 12 months out of the year? Are you gonna allow that?
If they go through the process, and if the process allows that, then yes, because that's allowed within the process. Sharon, commissioners can't go out there and
Well, you didn't do a very good
Take
job at the
Magic Wand
beginning of
and
the
say you can
process
camp
then.
Commissioner, if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump in
Sure.
here. I've been taking all this in, and you're right, we visited on numerous occasions.
Numerous. You know, he's always in
But-
the office. I
Yeah.
never see you two in there. Just making a point there.
Anyway, talking about process, because we've dealt with process issues in the past, I'll say 10 years ago. And one of the things that we try and do on behalf of all of you is follow a process, so we're not guessing each time as to why we did what we did before. But embedded in there, and we've talked to folks in the north end of the county about this more in this 10-year time frame I was talking about, we've gotten a lot of good information, or I know I have today. Ryan, you spoke to some article issues. If we don't like the process, there's a process to change it. And so I think that in part and parcel, without getting specific about the Drews situation, it allows us the opportunity with some good input and some good suggestions to perhaps consider changing some of the things that we've been doing
Yeah.
so that the process we follow in the future will be different.
Yeah, well, it's like a subdivision. We all know they make big mistakes in Bend on their subdivisions. They make the houses too close. Nobody's happy living that close to anybody. So now you guys left that subdivision. We bought 2 lots in it. I only bought the lots because I thought they were for residents. Everybody in this room is the same way. Absolutely would not have bought a lot up there if I hadn't thought. They were sold to us on that precept. They were for residents. We could be in a lot of trouble here if we really wanted to dig deep in this. So whoever did the subdivision, you know, if you think out how to plan a subdivision, so now in the conditional use permit, conditions is it hotels, schools, community centers, restaurants, all those things, could it be under that? Well, when you did the subdivision, why didn't you lay out those lots and say these particular lots are for the restaurants, if the person wants to buy that lot, that's where your RV is. That's where your restaurant will be. That's where your motel will be. You know, that's good planning. Subdivisions take a lot of thought. That one should have been thought out a little bit better. And you know, I'm passionate about it because I want good decisions to happen here. And I don't want it to supersede something that was meant for something, I think, good up there to turn into something not very good, profitable. Because see, the people that live past the 200 feet, it affects all those people in there. Their land values are going to be affected no matter if they're 250 feet away or they're 2 miles away. It's Drew's Reservoir, and they all have property in that vicinity. And they've invested a lot of money. They pulled their permits, they got their septic, you know, they got their well. They did their due diligence, they did it right. And they've been punished now for 4 years, and we've all had to go to these meetings because the process you guys are talking about is not working. There's something wrong with it. And you need to find out what it is and fix it. The building department doesn't have time to go through all of this either. You know, Darwin spent 6 hours, he told me, on writing all that stuff up. Well, I spent more than that. Ryan spent more than that time, you know. It could be more concise and very much to the point. Everything has to be so complicated. It shouldn't be that way. And these loopholes, as we're saying, they're just loopholes. They were not the intent, I don't believe. So,
Yes. Okay, how can we change it? I mean, I think every one of us that own property
you
up
have to
there,
do an application.
we'd be happy to change the process.
We have
We'd be happy to help you change it. When you think of, now I just know for myself, between my well and my septic, because it had to be a specialized septic, I've got over probably close to $40,000 just in those two items. And, you know, it makes me a little ticked when the guy next door spends zero. I have a big hefty tax bill, and I know he's probably got $140 a year.
So something in the process isn't right, is what I'm trying to say. You know, something isn't working. And a lot of it's interpretation. Darwin interpreted it different than I interpreted. And he's going by, you know, I see where he's going by, but I don't agree with it, you know, so.
Well, the other thing is, this individual is applying for the conditional use permit. He used words like, the planning department was coaching.
Yes.
And I kind of have a problem
He did
with
use
that.
those
I
words.
understand, you know, that he's supposed to be an information person for us as individuals out there to do different things. And the other thing was, they said that they felt sorry for the individual. Well, wait a minute. I've been paying my taxes for a long time and doing everything legally. Why don't you feel sorry for me then? You know, instead of the individual out there that's doing everything to basically circumvent all of your county and your state laws and being a drain on the community, you know, so feel sorry for us.
Sharon said it, we're being discriminated against.
Well, I can tell you that just shortly after that meeting, which the commissioners don't sit in, it was followed up with an on-site person with the building department and followed up with the planning department. I know you guys aren't.
Was DEQ
thinking
there?
We're doing anything, no, DEQ wasn't there, but I believe Jennifer has talked to them.
Yeah, she has.
Either her or Warren, whenever I followed up with them. So there has been follow-up. And we've been very proactive. We do have a building official here now that is here. Made sure that we're able to make sure the right development is there. We've implemented the nuisance, and maybe it doesn't have the teeth right now that some people want. We've made some difference. So we have been working going forward. And
Thank you.
you know, I appreciate that, Spencer, that you acknowledge that, because
Well, I realize that, you know, you don't change it overnight.
It doesn't come from any one commissioner. It's a board of commissioners that have to make decisions. At least 2 out of the 3 have to make a decision. And I've been very proactive. I've been liaison for the building and the planning for the last 2 years, I believe it is, almost 2 years. And I've been very active, very proactive on trying to get things going there. Commissioner Schown worked very hard to get money set aside for the nuisance side of it. It's not where the public wants it. We're making progress. We're getting there. And so I appreciate you acknowledging that. No, it isn't what you guys want today, but I followed up right after that meeting, and there was people out there, and you're aware people were out there.
Yeah, we talked to them a lot, and like I said, I always get the same clear message from Jennifer. Jennifer's always there. I've talked to Darwin just recently. I usually haven't talked to him, but I have recently and had some good conversations with him. Him and I still don't see eye to eye, and it's because of the way the ordinances are written. They need to be clearer and more concise. You guys got it wide open for tons of stuff. And once again, that goes back to what's your goal? I know what my goal is for the county. What is your goal for the county? Because you're representing us. What is your goal? I'd like to know, what is it?
Well,
You want RVs all over?
I'm going to have to get the meeting going, because but I do want to respond just shortly to that.
Yeah. You want my question?
Our goal is, I've been born and raised here. I love it here. My goal is for us to have a healthy, good community for our kids, my grandkids, and everybody being raised in. You guys know me. I went to school the same time as you guys did.
But what I'm
My
saying.
goal is that. But we also, for years, trying to make sure that goal is there, we've tried to keep building fees down. We've tried to be proactive on growth. There's always going to be somebody 2% of the people out there are going to cause us more headaches than the other 98% that follow the rules. And they take a lot of time and energy, and there's always going to be people trying to manipulate or trying to
Well,
abuse
we
the
know,
system.
we
And we're
understand
looking
that.
at addressing that, and we are putting some time in.
Well, I think you're gonna have to get the sheriff involved in some of this. And so, but they don't wanna get involved in it, so there's another deal, you know?
But then you have to get the DA involved, 'cause the DA doesn't want,
Yeah,
Well,
they don't got no teeth
Well,
either.
just for your information, elected officials are equal. We cannot give direction to the sheriff. But if it is something that is criminal or illegal, he is bound, or his employees, our employees are bound to address those things. So,
And it sounds like Commissioner Kestner's, he's the liaison to the sheriff and the DA, that he's gonna follow up with them on these things, so.
Yeah, I'll give it
but you really need to think about this question I have about the single campgrounds.
Okay.
It's a big deal.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I do want to get, I know Representative Bentley's got another engagement here shortly, so, anyway,
All right.
Thank you for listening to
I'll do
us.
that.
thank you. So I'd like to introduce Representative Bentley.
You may sit there.
Yes, come right on up. Appreciate you being here today.
That's okay.
A little more active public comment than always. You get to see some of the local process, which I know you've seen before.
That's the process.
Yeah, we'll keep around for
Okay.
you did a few.
Could you guys take it out in the hall so Representative Bentley can speak, please?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to have some open time. I realize you guys are pretty busy. I have a couple things I want to talk about. First of all, thank you for the opportunity that you afforded me in being your representative for House District 60. I mean, when the county commissioners all met and I was selected, it was very humbling and a very gratifying experience for me. So I'll talk a little bit about the session.
I want to say thank you for that comment, but thank you for reaching out before we put our votes in there. It made a difference on the way I was going to vote, and I know Commissioner Shannon also was it. I mean, thank you for reaching out to us before you were appointed.
Thank you. And I did that for a couple of reasons, because not a lot of people know I lived in Lakeview for 6.5 years. I was born and raised on a farm in Malheur County. I was a third-generation farm boy. And because the farming industry at the economies in the middle 70s wasn't that great, I had to get an outside employment, and I fought fire for the BLM for 32 years. That's where I met Commissioner Shannon. So, but I have a strong natural resource background. I believe in natural resources. I believe that agriculture is the basis for how we do stuff in Oregon, and especially in House District 60. I was blessed with some committee assignments that I really like in the legislature. I'm on the House Revenue Committee, which, you know, is the place where all revenue funds for the state go through. I've always believed in my public careers that you follow the money, and that's where the money starts. And hopefully we can affect that. In some of the committee assignments that I'm on, some of the work that we did as a committee, I drilled into some tax breaks that were being requested that we afford, that were essentially county tax, property tax breaks. And I don't believe that it's the state's responsibility or authority to be granting property tax breaks for a county, unless the county's there saying, please do that. And then I stopped a couple of those in my process because the counties and the taxing districts weren't there. So I am a strong believer in a healthy economy within the counties and the cities, and that's what makes the state healthy and vibrant. And the overreach of unnecessary rules and regulations that we sometimes impose in Salem, and I have to say we now because I are one, is counterproductive to that. So I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out how we can stay out of the counties and the city's way in our everyday business. I've reached out to a lot of different county staff in other counties, and I will continue in Lake County, to ensure that the decisions that we make are the right decisions through the assessor's office, the treasurer's office, the clerk's office, because we made legislation in this last session that affected all of those areas. And some of it was good legislation and some of it was not. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm also on the Energy and Environment Committee, which the major issue that we tried to discuss in the short session, which we shouldn't have, was the cap and trade policy. And I'm happy to say that died a fast and speedy death in the Senate. And so, because I firmly believe that the cap and job program, it was legally called, was a bad thing for Eastern Oregon. I mean, the unintended consequences for Eastern Oregon were severe.
That'll still be on the plate next year.
It will be, it absolutely will be. And the change is that the Senate is putting together a carbon committee that's called to dive into it a little harder and look, you know. I offered a recommendation to the governor that perhaps instead of dealing with carbon, we should deal with ecosystem health, healthy landscapes, and deal with wildfire smoke, because that affected everybody in the state last year. And if we have a healthy landscape, it's going to deal with carbon gases much better than they do now. And she gave me kind of a funny look and said she was attending a forestry conference in the future. You know, hopefully, I believe that if we had a healthy landscape, you know, if we would reduce the size of our wildfires, we would do a better job of sequestration of carbon emissions, and our environment would be better. And it's not quite as fun as the other. I've asked the Energy Environment Committee during the interim process that we should look at the laws that we've passed the last couple of years, to, you know, because they were passed and said this is what we're going to do. We should look at that and evaluate what they're doing and what we said they were going to do. And if they're not effective, we should get rid of them. If they're effective, then we should let them go to work and not try to do something new. Let's let something age that we've already said. So we're going to have some more discussion with the Energy Environment Committee. I hope we can get into what's really ailing us, and that's, you know, our unhealthy landscapes throughout Oregon. They're on both sides of the state. I mean, it's just not the forest, but it's on both sides of the state.
Are you aware that ODF will be coming to get some changes to make prescribed burning more reasonable?
Yep, absolutely. You know, one bill that we did pass this session was called a good neighbor policy, but they've always had that authority, and that's, you know, they can go help their neighbors without being asked at times, and we've always had that ability. It just, we fully legitimized it. You know, we, the state, it's hard for me to say that, but we, the state, have more capability than perhaps our federal partners, and we have some flexibility at times. So we're gonna, but the thing is, we all need to be in lockstep working together.
Well, Representative Finley, I know we got a chance to visit a little bit, and we kind of talked about this, but just since we're talking about it, well, I'm going to say something before I go there. And that is, I think for our citizenry, we need to clarify your boundary, even though I've known you a number of years, and you will represent all of our county to the best of your ability. But within the framework of how these districts are aligned, you have a small sliver of Lake County, and we're so appreciative that you're here and you're listening to these issues, and I know you well enough to know you'll listen to them and try and do anything you can going forward.
And thank you, Commissioner, that's exactly right. You know, and I'm putting in office, and I have on my cards, you know, I represent Malheur, Harney, Grant, Baker, and part of Lake County.
Yeah.
You go on Highway 395, I represent everything east of Highway 395.
Yeah.
Well, that's some good portions of Lake County.
You take in Thunder Ranch.
Yeah, there you go. I am your representative. So that's some good portions of Lake County, because I've hunted, I've fished, I've camped in that portion of Lake County in my fire lot. But to the taxpayers, to the residents, to the people, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whether you're a county employee, a city employee, a state employee, or a federal employee, you're the government.
Yeah.
And I will absolutely not tell someone, I'm sorry, that's not my district, have a nice day.
Well,
We will deal with those folks appropriately, and I will talk to the representative that's there. But, you know, I'm not gonna get into some other district's responsibility, but I'm also a state employee and I represent the people. And I will do the best I can, just
Well,
exactly what you
that's
said.
That's what I like and appreciate about you, and that's gonna be a real plus for us. Because the second part of that, and then I'll get to my other statement, is not everybody realizes this little old county, it's a large land base, but it has 5 people in the legislature that represent us, 3 on the House side and 2 on the Senate side. Almost unheard of in a small rural county. So, you know, we do have a lot of different people, and the fact that you'll interact and work with all of them on things that affect us, no matter where the boundary is great. Back to the other part, we talked about it briefly on the smoke management. You know, we really haven't heard much about, we did send a letter in to the smoke review committee, but it's a real misnomer, and you and I have chatted about this just briefly, that we can burn our way out of this problem of forest health. You know, having more, and I talked to the folks at the state, in the state forest office, forestry office, I talked to Peter about it, that we have to first and foremost get our landscapes healthy, and then use fire where it's appropriate, whether it's through a prescribed fire or through natural occurring fire. And so just to add to that,
You're exactly right. I mean, we have to take the blinders off and look at all of it. I mean, there are some, within District 60, there are shuttered biofuel cogeneration facilities. You know, and all the time we're saying we need more green energy. Well, there's one. I mean, we have shuttered forest health programs and reforestation programs. We have an abundance of forest litter that we should deal with. We need to look at all that, and I've asked the Energy and Environment Committee to, let's have these discussions. That can be an immediate impact. It can go to our healthy forest and healthy eco landscape. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's a pretty big pie, but we're gonna bite it one bite at a time, you know, or peel an onion one layer at a time. I think it's the right thing to do. Because what's good for District 60 is good for the state of Oregon. And that's what I care about. Let me talk about positives, because I know I'm gonna run over on your time frame. Some of the good things we did in the legislative session, and it's a pretty short list. The National Guard, Oregon National Guard is one of the few National Guards in the country that didn't have a tuition scholarship program for members. And I think we believe that it probably hurt our tuition, or excuse me, hurt our recruitment, retention, and to the fact that we're losing numbers throughout the state in a lot of Guard units, and we've lost some missions because of that. They just decommissioned Narrowing and Salem because they didn't have the people, you know. So we passed a National Guard tuition program where members can qualify for that, which was a good thing. Other things we did is some, in the planning department, planning-wise, which I thought was a real win for Eastern Oregon, is a couple of areas have issues with their economic opportunity analysis and their funding to do those studies as the cornerstone for comprehensive plan updates and changes.
You should have you speak first.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I served on the Malheur County Planning Commission for 10 years, and we had some contentious issues, and I know exactly what you guys are going through. So back to...
I've seen you smiling.
Back to the economic opportunities analysis. We were able to put in $300,000 for Eastern Oregon counties. Then it sits in the DLDC, and they will help with a centralized contract to do economic opportunities analysis as a precursor. And I think there's some great efficiencies to be gained by having, you know, one company come in and do all that work. They will have their planners work with the counties that are interested in doing that.
How do we apply? And I had our planning director come for this presentation. I didn't know that.
I have handouts that I can give you. I had a conversation the day before I left Salem with the DLDC director, and I got their first draft. I told them I would have this roadshow because I'm having town hall meetings in all my counties, and I will fold back. I will visit with your planning director and put that ball in motion because that funding is available for Lake County.
Is that the REDI?
Pardon?
The Rural Entrepreneurship Development?
No, this is a specific, there's $300,000 that we put in DLDC to help counties with economic opportunities analysis. And the goal was they can come out with updated comprehensive plans, have industrial land, have opportunities for development and logical, realistic growth. So I think it's a great thing for Eastern Oregon. In the 5 counties that I represent, 4 need it, 1 does not. I wouldn't tell my friends in not your county that, but we don't. And that's what I told the DLDC. There's areas that have a great need. That's where this money needs to focus. And there's some good efficiency. So I think this is a good thing. And,
Absolutely.
And what I will tell you, in the partisanship of that legislature, this went through fully unscathed and fully supported by all sides of the aisle, including the governor. I had discussions with those folks, and they understand that Eastern Oregon needs a helping hand at times, not a handout. And that if Eastern Oregon is vibrant and growing well, so is the state. So this was pretty well supported. I was pretty happy. There was a time or two I got a little nervous. I was worried about what I'd have to sell my soul for and so forth, and that has not occurred. So I'm happy that we can do this, and I think it's a great thing. I'll visit with the planning folks. Other things that didn't go so well, and that's Senate Bill 1528, and that's where Oregon is coupled with the federal tax code. We've always been coupled with them for the last several years, and when the federal tax code was changed in December, some in the state legislature decided to invest uncoupled from them and not provide those same great tax incentives that were provided by the feds in the state. And that bill sits still on the governor's desk. She's being lobbied very hard to veto that bill. I hope she does, because if we do not stay coupled with the federal tax code, it will be about $150 million impact to small businesses. And that's a terrible blow to small businesses. I believe that how we could grow in Oregon and be vibrant is an active, aggressive small business program. Those folks will get that money invested back into the state, back into their businesses, and it will turn so many times. We get the $150 million back in a heartbeat. You know, I mean, so I was pretty disappointed that bill made it to the governor, and I'm hoping that she will veto that. Another thing, there was a bill went through, this first-time home buyers program, and I read this bill. It was about 15 pages. And I get about 10 pages into it, I thought, well, this is really a good thing. This will allow people to save money, establish a specific account, save money to buy their first house. They'll have some tax incentives and forgiveness on earnings during this process. It's a great thing so people can save and make a down payment on a house. Well, the last 3 components of it was attached to that was raising the recording fees by 300%, which I did not support. So therefore, I said I don't support this whole bill. Although I really like the first-time homebuyers program, I could not support raising the recording fees, you know, by 300%. That's not what we should do. So that still sits on her desk. I believe that, you know, she's thinking about the same thing of vetoing that bill. I do hope she does. You know, there's a lot of things that we do in Salem that gets in the way of the counties. There's some things we do in Salem that is fluff stuff, and it's photo opportunities. I believe that the most recent gun legislation was a photo opportunity that really did not mean much. I would hope that we have a better discussion, and there was some discussion this morning. The real issue on gun control is not gun control, because people took a shivvy and killed people when they wanted to. The real issue is mental health. And that's where the serious discussion should be. It's not on some other feel-good sessions. I've talked with most of the sheriffs in my district. I've not talked with Lake County, but I will before this process is over, about how we can start crafting something to be more responsive to a bigger problem, giving the sheriff the authority to do more, to do some of this mental health stuff. You know, the fact that there's 1 bed in Lake County for mental health stuff. There's no beds in Harney, Malheur, or Bacon.
Well, just to elaborate a little on that, I've reached out. It's a Stepping Up program. We contract with the hospital to do our mental health. I pulled our hospital, mental health, our jail, and others together. We toured up in John Day. We know that we need more. We're looking at ways to try to enhance our mental health. because we know the needs there. We know it's very obvious it's needed. We're getting better things done on the ground, but the struggle I have, state and federal, is putting quite a bit of dollars towards mental health and adult corrections. They give us zero for our jail or sheriff's department.
And that's wrong.
And the impact.
We're
as
throwing money in buckets at some time and we're not doing it, we're not.
Well, and we're double stacking our prisons. And they're saying, at your level, they're saying, we can take care of those people in the community. There's no money for our jails, for our sheriffs, for our hospital, our schools, or any of these other things that's impacted. We have to think this out. Some people need to go to prison. That's where they need to go. The other ones that we can help, we need to get those dollars there. And that may be in jail. That's a time we have them locked up, that they can get the alcohol and drug treatment they need. We have to have those monies go further than just one silo. And I'm a little bit passionate about this.
No, you're
working
absolutely
on
right,
this, so.
Commissioner. The answer is not just throw money. The answer is to throw money appropriately and correctly and deal with it completely. I mean, we had some issues. We moved some money because of the way some of the marijuana stuff was written, the rules and the laws and the taxes, is it was very focused on addiction, and it didn't talk about, treatment. So we moved some money around to allow that to occur, but we need to go look at that and do a better job. I mean, we're hampering abilities for small rural counties in all of rural Oregon to deal with the problem very well.
Well, I'm not going to say we have it figured out, but we have our thoughts. But the other component of that is the workforce side of it. If we get these people where that they're back to work, have a purpose in life, the money has to go to several different places, and there has to be a plan. If people have a purpose, if they get through the system, they get their addiction taken care of, they need to go to work.
We need to find them
They
a work
have to
and
have
give
a
them
purpose.
a purpose in life, absolutely.
And so it's a big, it's going to take people with a lot of vision, not only on one part of it, but to think broad and not not just do one.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna say that we really supported our workforce organization, our East Cascades Workforce Investment Organization, 10 counties. And Commissioner Winters brought up a great idea because we had changed providers, and the current one's KCC, Klamath Community College. They took on that contract, and we've located them here in the courthouse. We have a partnership with our community corrections program specifically for that reason. But more importantly, what I want to hit on, Representative, is our federal partners think the problem's solved with workforce. We're just starting to scratch the surface on the need. Getting unemployment numbers down is all well and good, but retraining, skill up, those types of things, and in the corrections world, being able to get somebody a meaningful training opportunity so we can actually put them back to work and they can feel good about their lives and not redo the path they've been on before. So we're trying to be really proactive, and I'm not here to say we need more dollars, but the workforce program needs to be refunded. It's dropped somewhere to the tune of, for the state of Oregon, it went from like 59 million, I want to say in the early 2000s, to currently 32. And our needs are greater now than they've ever been, so.
Yeah, I think we need to take a pretty hard approach. The state budget is like $78 billion for a biennium. That's a huge number. And we have what I consider to be some unsustainable growth put into that. We have out there a huge number of unfunded liabilities and PERS that we have to quit kicking the can down the road and deal with.
I'm going to allow Heidi to make a comment.
I'm just going to make a comment on the funding for the mental health, and I don't know, there was a lot of people there, but we had a couple weeks ago a big meeting, sir, at the high school with parents and mental health and the sheriff's department, the police department, and it was addressing, of course, we had parents there in the school that are addressing kids that are in trouble, that do have mental health issues. And the problem is of course, and I'll go to the jail, if we get a certain amount of women in the jail, we have to start letting other people out because we don't have the room. We don't have anywhere to put these people. And with the young people, and our DA got up and explained very well that there are certain rules and laws around juveniles that cannot be breached. We could solve the problem if we didn't have some of those laws in place, but there's laws for a reason. But the issue is we identifying these kids that do have the mental health problems. If we have an issue with them, we really have nowhere to put them. And I'll go back to the kid Kipling who shot all the kids in Springfield. He was arrested that day with a stolen gun in his locker. He was taken to the police department. He threatened a police officer with a knife. He said, "Shoot me, kill me." He was suicidal. And we could go back all the way through the psychologist who had him. Yet they released him to his parents, and I don't know if it's because they had nowhere to put him, but he released him to his parents. He went home and killed his parents, and then went to the school the next day and killed the kids. And that's our biggest active shooter here in this country. That's exactly with mental health, and where was law enforcement? Did they have a place to put him? So my concern here is, yes, is we need more funding that we can actually do something with these kids.
The girl that shot on YouTube yesterday, they actually talked to her, the
At 3
police
o'clock
talked to
in the
her
morning.
that morning.
I read that.
Yeah.
So there are,
You're right.
you're right, there's the juvenile thing that we don't have enough, we don't have the facilities to help these people. And that's where I would stress too, I agree with the commissioners, we need money to put these people, and especially these young kids that do have problems. Because sending them home to their parents and back to school the next day is infuriating parents, who are the parents that actually care. And the parents that don't care are the ones that are having the problems that we're arresting usually. So that's where we need more beds, we need more places to put these potential problems and to get them help.
And on that point, we need to address the problem as it is, but also need money in the prevention up front, working with the parents, et cetera. So we cut down the number of, there's always going to be some, but the number of kids with mental health problem is just growing out of a person. We need to identify the cause and address that too.
I don't have an answer for a lot of this stuff.
Well,
I don't either, but
I would like to see the money go a little broader, and because of whenever our law enforcement sites getting all of these calls, and our calls have went up, and another component of this, I probably shouldn't go down this path, is legalization of marijuana. But our calls are up 500%. We're trying to take care of more people in our community, put money at mental health and adult corrections, but no money to our jail and our sheriff's site. Calls are up 500%. Those people that don't get their fix are going to go to the neighbor's house and get their chainsaw to sell to get their fix. So it's a start. I'm not complaining, but it's a start.
We have to look at all the strings that we continue to apply and not put quite so many strings.
And put money here and say, if the state says you're going to take care of these people in your community and put money there for mental health is great. But what's the spin-off that's happening over there?
Unintended consequences, that's a favorite word that I keep using all the time, is, and they're huge.
And
I want to talk before I get out of here
Okay.
about solar stuff.
I do want to make one more comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to get this in before Clint and Heidi left. You do represent them, Thunder Ranch of Oregon, $900,000 a year they bring into our community. And on the gun control part of it, I know that you very much support firearms and everything. They've offered many times for state representatives, state senators, or US to tour their facility. So if you want to do that, you can get a hold of me or them and we'll make that happen.
I got it.
And I will, I gave him my card, that would be my high desire to do.
Great.
And
I would like to get all 5
Yeah.
here.
that would be a great thing to do.
I don't think they understand the impact that we have on the community. And I'm not being an arrogant ass, I'm not saying we're great, but we moved here, we planted our feet, we did everything right. We came into the board, this is what we are, this is who we are. And so we really try to be an asset to the community. I realize not everyone cares for what I do for a living, but then again, you can't make everybody happy.
Care for us either.
Yeah, right, so.
Our motel
Thank you.
taxes stayed up through the times of the year when you don't get a lot of people in motels because they have a lot of people. So anyways, I want to make sure to put that plus for
Thank you.
one of our good
And when you
businesses.
talk about them being in your district, I worked on the 2010 census, and then conversed with the panel that was redirecting. I'm also within your district,
Cool.
not much.
That's all right, every little bit advantages. Before I get out, I want to talk solar tax, solar panel. We had Lake County has some substantial solar projects in the development funds.
And on the ground.
And you currently have stuff, but there's two other big projects that are out there. And in Malheur County, there's several 9.9 megawatt plants, solar arrays and facilities. And I had lengthy discussions with the solar industry at this session. They had a bill went through that talked about thou shalt do the PILT and not whether you may or may not. And I had some big concerns with that. I had some concerns with the actual math in there on, is it advantageous for a county to do that or not to do that? And I've yet to find the math. I mean, the solar people never gave that to me. They kept handing me a handout with an XY axis on it with no numbers on it and had a cute little loop on it. And you could turn and make a smiley face or a frowny face, however you wanted to do it. It didn't make any sense. I also didn't believe that we should be exempt, if we say that it's going to be $7,000, and that number's, I hear up for change, but it's not right.
Yeah.
That if a county overrides, if the citizens of a county override their taxing districts and that's due through a school bond or a fire location or any exemptions to that and goes above that, then that number should go above that megawatt charge, the PILT number, in my belief. I disappointed the solar industry significantly because I killed the bill as it was going through the revenue committee, because they could not answer those questions for me. The county assessor from Marion County says he has better charts, and they've done some numbers that I'm going to see before we go about that. I hope to, as revenue committee, we will meet in a couple of weeks. That we have some discussion, but I'd like to have a task force to start talking about solar stuff, because this will come back before the legislature, and Lake County will be a big part of that conversation. It's not in my district, but I don't care. I'm on the revenue committee not to represent District 60. I'm on the revenue committee to represent Oregon.
Well, let me tell you, if you can answer this one question that will help me as an individual commissioner, is what the taxation through the Department of Revenue would be on solar sites as they depreciate out.
And that's exactly what they have to answer to me before I will support moving forward with this. It's that very question.
I really struggle with, I've accepted the $7,000 per megawatt, but it's a 20-year guarantee.
Yeah, and you can't, and excuse me, Commissioner, but you're right, you can't go in there and get all these upfront, you can't get enterprise zone, you can't get all these other things and then apply that pill. I mean, you can't have the best of all worlds.
Right.
Because I think that's disadvantageous for the counties and the taxing districts.
Give us the numbers, then we'll talk.
I'm with you 100%. You know, I'm not from Missouri, but my grandparents drove through there one time, and they got to show me.
Yeah.
Because I do not believe these folks.
But Representative, one of the things you said there, I think, is perhaps the misnomer. I don't think the solar industry should be telling us. I think, as Commissioner Winters just said, the Department of Revenue, we have pulled our hair out for over 10 years, asking them simply, if this plant is built and it has this value, what are you, because they are essentially assessed, what value are you going to put on that, and what's the tax going to be, and what's the tax going to be going forward? Because all we've ever been told is it will depreciate like that, because we had the 3 or 5 year exemption. And if you did a 5-year exemption, you were essentially not going to get any taxes. So when the PILT came along, you know, we all had different opinions on it, but I thought, bird in the hand. Because we had no idea on what that would be.
Commissioner, I 500% agree with you.
Yeah.
And I have been promised, and I'll do it in May when I'm there, a site visit of the Department of Revenue building. And they, before I leave, I will have an understanding of that.
Thank you.
They will provide that data, because I think it's critical to make the right decision. You can't make a decision unless you got all the right stuff.
That's, you know, and I'm just going to editorialize really quickly. You know, we're having these discussions on these 2 proposed plants, one down here, one up north. once again, we talked earlier about process. That's what we're in charge of doing, is following the process. Our planning director is providing information, because we're advisory to that process for the state. And part and parcel of that, and you and I had talked about this earlier with Ann Kerman, our treasurer, we have more questions than answers. The state has more questions than answers. There's more we don't know than what we do know. And everybody's flying around, you know, whether it's SIP or it's PILT, the normal taxation.
I'm 100%, but this is not
It's
fair.
got to get resolved.
We have to resolve it. We
Yep.
can't be making decisions with not all the information.
Yeah,
And my belief, these are your decisions to make. They're not state decisions. These are county taxes we're talking about. And
Correct.
you will be an integral part in that decision before I will take an action forward in the revenue committee.
Well,
I make that a guarantee to you right now.
If you can get the answer to the Department of Revenue on the taxation.
It's my goal to do that.
yeah.
I'm still naive enough to think I can do that. I guarantee you, I'll try. And
Yeah,
if I don't, then I'm not moving forward these things.
Well,
think
I
it's
don't want to
appropriate.
be crass relative to our state employees, because I know they're hardworking employees, but I would simply say, we had a fellow from Mississippi came up, economic development, he made this statement about his employees. If you ask that question and they say, we don't have the answer, you might say to them, then you don't need to come in tomorrow. Because we
That's
don't need
exactly
you
right.
here. Unless you can start to answer the questions you're there to answer.
I'm doing this job because I want to do this job. I'm not doing this job for the birthday cards and the accolades, because they don't come
they
very
do
often.
not count.
And I don't really give a damn about it. I'm doing it because I like to be able to look myself in the mirror and I know what we're doing is right. And we're gonna get those numbers, and I'm not gonna, one thing I found, I don't have a lot of time for it to be wasted. And they're gonna give me the answers, or we're gonna find somebody that will.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
And they had to go outside of government through some.
Whatever it takes.
Academic institute to get it.
I guarantee you, I've had 3 conference calls since the session's been over with the solar people, other folks, because I've roughed their feathers a lot. I do not care that
That's
much.
because they drove the legislation, because it gives them a guarantee so they can get the investors to come in and buy the projects.
But they got numbers someplace and they're not sharing them.
That's the tail wagging the dog.
We're gonna share them. I will make that up, I will be back. I'm probably gonna come back in 3 years.
Yeah.
But I will get some answers on solar, or
We want
I'll
We need it.
do my best to get answers.
I do know you have 11:30. Do you have something that you need to get out in front of this representative?
Those are the main things. The solar stuff is a big deal, and we will continue to have dialogue about it. The healthy landscape is a bigger deal for me, because cap and trade's coming back in some form.
Yes.
And in my belief that we should worry about a healthy landscape, and that will fix some of the cap and trades.
Yeah.
Keep me or keep all of us abreast on cap and trade. I asked Representative Benson to also keep me abreast on that.
And Senator Benson and I have agreed, we have a great working relationship. He is on the carbon committee put out by the Senate. And therefore, I am not gonna spend a lot of time in carbon, because there's no reason for me to do that. We will have regular dialogue. Senator Benson will go there, and for the district, his district and mine, which covers, we will have carbon covered, and there's no reason for both of us. We have a lot of stuff to do. But rest assured, as you guys know Senator Benson as well as I do, he's an incredible asset for us all.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, and you are as well.
Well, I hope to be, and you have I've reached out to you, we've had dialogue through the short session. We will, when we start the long session back in January 21st, I think it is, we will reinstitute the hotline calls where Senator and I will have dialogues with you folks on a regular basis. Representative Reski and I have a fairly regular discussion. Representative McLean and I have a good discussion. What's good for one part of this district is good for the whole state. So
Geographically, we are all one.
we are all connected, that's exactly right. Now, I happen to believe, we're part of the Great Basin in most of Senate, or House District 60, and I'm a Great Basin fan. So we're all tied together pretty well.
And meanwhile, you got 2 minutes, so I'm going to interject. Your district, ADM Plus, is getting broadband internet fiber out to there, but it goes to the elementary schools. I'm trying to find dollars for the infrastructure to get
And-
broadcast out.
And I have your position paper. I was not able to do that this time. It's on my list and it will be back. Senator Benson and I had a discussion last week about the broadband services to the east side.
Yeah, one aspect of getting fiber, and was my passion for 11 plus years, is also fiber would carry cell phone to Plush.
Okay?
And we need to work on the
We-
cell phone companies, because even with fiber there, they're still saying no. So-
We have to focus on technology and not tell them exactly what we want, because we don't know what we want. We want the capability, and the technology should drive that.
Yeah.
And it is high on my hit parade and the senators to help with the broadband capability to use.
Yes.
We just signed to let them come to our property. We just signed a paperwork, it's give them full access. Whatever you need to get the fiber to Adele, we're there, so we give them access to our land whenever they need.
And they're gonna give you your own lateral extension
It'd
to
be
your
nice if
office.
they did.
That's a discussion.
That's a discussion, there was no commitment.
That's okay.
I don't mind you going across country.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
You
Thank
gave us a lot of time today,
Thank you.
individually and meeting time. We've
Yes.
heard a lot. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
So we'll check in.
And we're gonna look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you.